Hello, welcome to your academy. At your academy, we have been dealing with the general prologue to the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. We have already dealt with the character of knight, we have dealt with the character of squire, we have dealt with the character of a yeoman. If you want to watch those characters or if you have missed those lectures, you can check out this link. It would take you to the playlist of the general prologue, and there you can find in sequence all the lectures on the general prologue. Today we will deal with the character of Prioress Nun. Now there are only few female characters in the prologue or in Canterbury Tales. Out of these 29 pilgrims, there are 3 female characters. One is the nun, and she is accompanied by another nun, little nun, and then there is the character of wife of Bath. But prominent characters are the character of nun, which we would deal now, and the character of the wife of the Bath. Now this nun is also a prioress. She is also head of the nuns. Now she has also gone on this pilgrimage. Another important thing that you have to keep in mind here is that this nun belongs to church. And Geoffrey Chaucer was very harsh on the characters which were related to church in the general prologue. Whether it was the character of the nun, or whether it was the character of monk, whether it was the character of pardoner, whether it was the character of the wife of Bath, who was also considered to be a religious woman. So all of these characters have been dealt with very harsh satire or sarcastic words by Geoffrey Chaucer. Again, as I have told that the choice of words, particularly adjectives, is important. We will take up the character of the nun and see how Geoffrey Chaucer deals with this character, or how did nun appear to the pilgrim or the poet, or for that matter, Geoffrey Chaucer. There was also a nun, a prioress, who in her smiling modest was and coy. Look how he begins. With us there was a nun. She was a prioress. She was the head of the nuns perhaps. And she had a beautiful smile. She was coy. She was modest. 3 adjectives. Smiling cannot be an adjective, is also a noun. Modest is good adjective. Coy, perhaps a forced character or forced choice of word. He has to say that she is coy, because she is a nun and she is a female in Chaucer's time, and we have been told that a female has to be coy, so she is coy. Her greatest oath was but by Saint Eloi. Now we are in a bit of confusion here, in a bit of doubt because of this 3rd verse. Her greatest oath was by Saint Eloi. Now this Saint Eloi is the saint of the goldsmiths, which gives a material suggestion, which gives that she was occupied by the material things. Now then was this coy, which was used at the end of 2nd verse, forced choice of word just to match the rhyme of the next verse, because he had to use the alloy perhaps in the 3rd verse, so he thought that coy was in better rhyming, because if she is materialistic, then we would get an idea that the character portrait is going to be full of irony and humor, and perhaps satire also. She is a nun, but perhaps she has not renunciated the material world fully, because her greatest oath is not by Jesus but by Saint Eloi. And she was known as Madame Eglantine. There are only few characters whose name we know from the prologue. There is another character also whose name perhaps has been said by Geoffrey Chaucer. One of them is Nun, and she is Madame Eglantine. Full well she sang the services divine, intoning through her nose becomingly. She sang in the hymns to God intoning from her nose, which means that she was not a good singer. She would sing from her nose, becomingly, which is forcibly. Perhaps, she does not know the apt art of singing, but she has to sing. So she tries to sing good and ends up singing through nose. This could give you an idea what Geoffrey Chaucer is telling us about nun. And fair she spoke her French and fluently after the school of Stratford at the Bow. She spoke French fluently after the school of Stratford at the Bow. Now this Stratford at the Bow is reference to Benedictine nunnery of Saint Leonard. Now this is a place where nuns are taught few things. So she has been schooled at this nunnery, and because she has been schooled or educated at this nunnery, she speaks French fluently, but for French of Paris was not hers to know. The French she speaks is not the standard French language which is perhaps spoken in France, but she speaks the French of Saint Leonard, perhaps because she has learned it in his nunnery. So she is not a good speaker of French, but whatever she knows of French, she speaks that fluently. But so far as the original French is concerned, it's not her cup of tea. Now what we are getting is that he is not telling us good things about this nun. He is revealing her character with tongue-in-cheek manner, with irony, with humor, with satire. At table she had been well taught withal, and never from her lips let morsel fall. So far as the eating habits were concerned, she knew them all. And she would not let a morsel fall from her lips, not a small driblet, a morsel from her lips, nor dipped her fingers deep in sauce, but ate with so much care the food upon her plate that never driblet fell upon her breast. She would not dip all fingers in the sauce, so her fingers would be clean. She ate her food with so much care from the plate that not a driblet fell from her lips. Not a driblet fell on her breast. Now this driblet means a minute drop of liquid. Now what Geoffrey Chaucer is telling us, he is not telling us about her moral highness, about her being nun, about her contribution to church or society as a nun. Nay, he is telling us about some other things which are, not of that significance. Whether she knew the art of eating or not is not perhaps what we should know of a nun. We would be more interesting in the fact that how she is serving the church or Christianity. In courtesy she had delight and zest. Her upper lip was always wiped so clean that in her cup was no iota seen. Now, if someone attended her with courtesy, she would be happy. She would be delighted. And she would always keep her upper lip clean, that you will not see any kind of sheen or grease on her lips when she drank any kind of liquid. Now again the focus is on how she eats and how she drinks. When she had drunk her draught of wine, the draught of wine is perhaps the wine which is served in the church to those who go there, which is considered to be the blood of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. Becomingly, she reached for meat to dine. When it was time to have food, to have dinner, to have lunch, she would come there full prepared. Full prepared means perhaps putting on a good dress, making her hairs right or wimple right for that matter, having all things in place, and certainly delighting in good support. She was right pleasant, amiable, in short. She would find delight in supports, and I would tell you that she was very amiable, she was very friendly, which means that she has not renunciated the world as perhaps the nuns do. She was at pains to counterfeit the look of courtliness and stately manners took. One of the trait of this nun was that she would counterfeit the stately looks. Now, counterfeit means imitate or copy or, show off. She was not a stately woman, but she would counterfeit those stately looks so that people would tell you, oh, she looks like a queen, she looks of upper class, of higher class. So she took pains to counterfeit looks, she took pains to imitate, or she took pains to show off, and would be held worthy of reverence. And because of this, that she counterfeited the looks, she was held with reverence. Now that is ironical. Now that is sarcastic. That is humor also, and that is satire to a greater extent. She was revered for what? Not for her services as nun, but perhaps for her counterfeiting looks. But to say something of her moral sense, she was so charitable and piteous that she would weep if she but saw a mouse caught in trap. These were the things that I have told you about hers, about her eating habits, about other things which perhaps were not that necessary. Now I'll tell you about her moral sense. She is a nun, so morals would be an important part. See, morals are an important part of each and every human being. We cannot just, draw the line that only nuns have to be morally upright. But then they are nuns, so people expect them to be in better shape when it comes to the morals as compared to others. So he tells us that, let me tell you something about her moral sense. And she was very charitable and piteous. And she would weep if she ever saw a mouse caught in trap. Now this is again satire, this is again irony, this is again sarcastic. She would weep for a mouse if it is caught in trap. Though it were dead or bled, irrespective of the fact whether this mouse was dead or if it was bleeding and still alive, whatever the case be, she would weep for the mouse. She had some little dogs too, and she fed on roasted flesh or milk and fine white bread. Now, besides weeping for mouse, she also kept some dogs. Now, these dogs keeping of dogs is not perhaps the fashion or the custom of the nuns. They usually live in church, they renunciate the world, but not so our nun. She had the dogs, and these dogs were being fed by flesh and by milk and by fine white bread. Now this is ironical because in the times of Geoffrey Chaucer, England was not a very rich state or a very rich country. There was poverty, there were problems in British society. Perhaps there would have been many people who were not having enough food to eat. But here we have a nun who is religious and who is supposed to feed the poor, ends up feeding dogs. But sore she would weep if one of them were dead, or if men smote it with a rod to smart. But if these little dogs, pets that she had, if any one of them died, she would weep sore. She would weep, she would cry. Even if some men, ran after a dog, threw stone on him or hit him with a rod, whatever the case be, our nun was so piteous, was so charitable that she would start weeping. For pity ruled her heart, her and her tender heart. Pity ruled her heart, herself and her heart. She was so piteous, she was so merciful, she had such a tender heart. These are ironical statements. These are sarcastic statements. Right decorous her plaited wimple was. Decorous. Plaited wimple is, that scarf that women wear, that nuns wear. It was well decorated. Her nose was fine. Her eyes were blue as glass. Her nose was fine. Now he's telling us about the structure of her face. Now you will find irony here also. She had a fine nose. She had blue eyes. Her mouth was small and therewith soft and red. Her mouth was small and soft and red. We would say that she was a cute nun, but certainly she had a fair forehead. Now let me tell you something about her forehead. It was fair. It was almost a full span, broad eye on, but Her forehead was very broad. Now that is ironical. She would tell you that she had a fine nose, blue eyes, small, cute little face, and then broad forehead. Now you imagine a woman who has a broad forehead, a small face, a long nose, blue eyes. She would not look cute. She would not look beautiful. So again, this description of the nun is sarcastic and ironical in nature. For truth to tell, she was not underground. I am telling you the truth. She was well built. She was healthy. She was not malnourished. Neat was her cloak, as I was well aware. So far as his dress is concerned, it was very neat. I was well aware. I perhaps observed her better than the others. Now that is sarcastic and ironical upon the poet himself. Of coral small, about her arm she would bear a string of beads and guarded all with green. A string of beads. Beads is a jewelry kind of stuff that these girls wear, small round shaped with a hole in between. So she was wearing red and green kind of those beads on her arm, and therefrom hung a brooch of golden sheen, whereon there was first written a crowned A, and under Amor vincet omnia. So besides these coral red beads and green beads, she also wore a brooch which looked golden or had the golden sheen, and on that brooch was first written the letter A, and beneath that letter was written Amor vincet omnia, which means love conquers all. Now that was the portrait of the nun, the prioress. It is ironical, it is satirical, and it is sarcastic, because in this whole caricature, in this whole portrait, we are not told anything about the duties perhaps of the nun, or whether this nun disposes her duties rightfully or not, how much she has contributed to the church, to the Christianity, to the humanity. No, but what is told to us is about her eating habits, about her wimple, about her piteous heart, which is more piteous, which is more merciful towards mouse and towards dogs, and eventually, she perhaps does not seem to have renunciated the world, because her greatest oath is by Saint Aloy, and she also wears some kind of jewelry, and she has also got a brooch. Now that was the character of the nun. I hope that you were able to understand the portrait of the nun, and that is all we have at your academy today. You can continue watching the lectures on the general prologue. You can click here to watch the lecture on the character of monk, who is next in series, and you can click here to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Keep watching Your Academy. Don't forget to share, like, comment and subscribe at Your Academy for more interesting stuff. Keep watching Your Academy.